transitions tend to be very tough on couples. Like, of couples that, they relocated from here, and as soon as they got to another place, everything just scattered, because it usually tests whatever you already have going, right? Because when things shift, it's just that time where you're like, if you're not careful, irritability goes on because you're dealing with your own uncertainties, and this person is like, you don't understand, they're not talking to one another, and then the gulf gets wider. So what would you say to couples who are navigating that?
We have to be intentional about everything. You never stop growing. You never stop listening. You don't have it figured out. We don't have it figured out. We're still learning every day, every day. Being intentional, if I'm still learning how to communicate, because my first defense when I'm upset is to shut down. And it's not fair to him, because I can shut down.
Hello, everyone. Hi, and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk TikTok. I am delighted to be hosting another edition where we talk practical, real life application of a very, very topical issue, which is about intentional and impactful living. This sessions, if you've never joined any of them, is where we get together with different individuals to add color to and practical perspective to certain principles of intentional living as espoused in my book. Take stock of who you have become on the journey to becoming. It's a faith-based practical guide to purposeful and impactful living. And the core message is recognizing the fact that we're here not by accident but by design, to deliver on the intent of the maker. And because of that, we need to be intentional in leaving our marks and our impacts on the sands of time. And we're only able to do that when we're able to kind of grab a mental mirror and see, where are we? Who are we? Where are we going? Where are we on the journey to where we're going? And so those principles they tend to be somewhat universal, but the ability to bring them all together in a way that makes you sit and say, now what? So where do I go from here? And so it's been a delight. I've been looking forward to this session. We've locked this couple's availability months in advance. And because I believe that they have a perspective that they're bringing to the table, unique perspective from their individual and collective journey and growth. And so very shortly, I'll be introducing this couple. Let's just start with a few introductions of myself. Funmilola Asa, a transformational catalyst. I basically help individuals and organizations unlock transformation, by translating deep strategic insights and guiding transformation for them. This takes expressions in different ways: as an author, a speaker, a trainer, a teacher, coach, and a day-to-day corporate strategist and digital transformational, leader. And so today we're wearing the hats of the author, speaker, facilitator, as I navigate a conversation with this couple around the principles of intentional living. And so today we're going to be talking about growing intentional living as together as a couple and as individuals. If I can get myself to see my screen properly. Yes. So we're going to be talking today about intentional stock taking as a couple, growing individually and together. And this speaks to the element of the fact that we're here by design. And so even our collectiveness achieves a purpose, but it does not take away our individuality as we grow and learn on this journey of purpose. And so I'm sure that you're delighted and you're looking forward to this. All right. So Fumi is a mom, a wife, a daughter, a mom, wife, friend, sister. And I just like to show up as my best self in everything that I do. And so I'm hoping that whenever you're done with this comes across to you, that the insights that we share today are coming from a deep place, an intentional space of helping you along your journey. Part of the things that we do in this sessions is to spotlight a copy of a portion of the book. And I won't be reading today. I'm just going to high level talk about the book itself. Take stock of who you've become on the journey to become. And the first thing that we talk about in the book before we go into the different chapters of the book is about the fact that you need to stop living in auto living. Often we're born, we already have a laid out plan. We need to go to this education, do a business, do whatever. And sometimes we just keep going. Even the great things that we do sometimes become just a pattern that we just show up for. The ability for us to just pause from time to time and say, why? WHY, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why is this important? How is this aligned with who I'm becoming? Or who have I even become in the journey of life? Because life is going to throw you all sorts. The ability to stay consistent on the journey of where God is taking you to is going to be hinged with your ability to recognize that, okay, this has become auto living. We need to stop. We need to let the light bulbs come up for us and start asking ourselves really candid and deep questions, right? And then that takes us on the next journey of then saying, you know what, where do we go from here? How do we tune in? How do we align? How do we make sure that we're keeping ourselves anchored to what matters to us? And the whole journey continues. So I wouldn't take you too deep into that, because I really am eager to get to the conversations. But as usual, when we're on these calls, because this is a faith-based practical call, we always like to say a quick word of prayer to God, just for the opportunity to have this conversation. And so very shortly, I'll just take a quick word of prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for that person who's listening to us today. Thank you for the message of life, of hope, of intentionality, and of impact that you have for these individuals. We ask that they would not miss their light bulb moments as we share our practical insights. Thank you, Lord, because we know that all the glory will be yours. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so today I am joined by a wonderful, wonderful couple, Benjamin Pepple and his wonderful, pretty wife, Christie Pepple. And I'll allow them introduce themselves shortly, because I can't do any justice to introduction for them. They have the 360 view of where they are to this point, and they're going to be telling us what version of it they're going to be presenting to you today. But they're a wonderful couple that I've encountered, each with their unique strengths, but they complement themselves very beautifully. And so looking forward to sharing their experience with you. And so with that, thank you once again, Benjamin and Christie, for doing this with us. I do not take it for granted. And I'm just excited. I'm excited, as you can tell. All right, so we'll get right into it. I would just say, just start by introduce yourself. Each one of you introduce yourself, and then let us know anything you'd like us to know about yourselves individually and as a couple. Usually I wrap this question into two and just say, you know what, if you think about your life's journey to this point, spotlight key moments, experiences that have shaped you. But I'll start first by just saying, let's start with the introductions. Let's just get to meet you first. Then we'll now do the double click to the next layer. I will take you from there. So Benjamin, you want to go first?
So my name is Benjamin, and I would say husband, father, girl, dad. let me pause there. Yes, and
I'm Christy, a wife, a daughter, girl mom.
so I'm together with the Pepples family, and we just pride ourselves and saying we are purpose driven. We're passionate. We want to live an intentional life. By God's alignment and God's principle, individually and also as a couple, right? Ensuring that we follow God's plan for our lives and always making impact in our family, around our friends, and also community. And that's
Okay. I like that. It's like already they're giving it to us from the beginning. This is about impacts, about being purposeful, being intentional, doing it individually and doing it as a couple, and
right.
and they paint the picture, girl dad, girl mom. So there's already one more person in that picture, right? If there are more, let us know.
Yeah.
But all righty. So now I want us to kind of think about each one of you, right? If you think about the journey, because you've each been on an individual journey, somewhere along the line, your journeys intersected. And then you said a joint journey together. But even in that joint journey, there's still elements that are still shaping you in your day-to-day experiences, because of course you encounter the world, you go to work, you do other things. And so if you just think about, if we were going to meet you and think about, but what you think has shaped the key moments, the events, the seasons, who you are today.
Okay.
Some of those key moments is, becoming a wife, becoming a mom, relocating different cities because of my husband. Each of those have a way shaping my life, my experience in different seasons, but growing spiritually, finding out who I am as a person, as an individual, as a couple, we grow every day spiritually, mentally. We're still growing. I don't have it down packed. Every day comes with its new challenges, but we're excited to see where the future takes us.
Same here. For me, is the same thing, right? I would say becoming a father, becoming a husband, even being saved, and navigating my different career transitions, right? Those are light bulb moments, life shaping moments that at each point, some of those I could recognize it, some of them I could not at the point in time, but these are phases that forced me to grow, reevaluate my life. I've changed directions with those different milestones, and basically it helps me to realize that life is the journey. Really, it's not a destination; it's the journey. So I will say those are key, or some of the key highlights. Yeah.
No, I like how both of you have taken it, right? You say life is a destination, is not a destination, it's the journey. And it's we're starting out very deep, very quickly. And I like that. I like that. Because you see, what you just said in passing is the reason why some people are probably still sitting on whatever it's their impact journey today. Because they're waiting for a certain point in time when they're made or have made it or have hit this milestone before you feel like, okay, then I'm now ready for the next thing, right? I'm not ready for impact. I'm not ready for transition, because we feel like there's that destination, but the becoming in the journey of life is really the thing, right? Because it's a continuous walk, it's a continuous journey. You all talked, you hit transitions a bit lightly, both of you. You talked about career transitions, and Christy talked about, changing cities, transitioning, even transitioning identities from being a single to a wife, to a mom, to a father, to father. You talked about your career transitions, being saved, and all of those things. Is there a double click? I'm looking for Christy, a little bit of a double click there when you say, it's shaped you. Yeah, and I like how you said, like, oh, the moving cities because of him. And those are some of the that's the beauty of couples, right? You're there living your life, doing your one-on-one journey, and then once your path intersects, now your decision has at least a minimum plus one in the conversations, right? And so if you could just shed just a little bit more light when you think about how that has shaped you today. And I know we're work in progress. It's just whatever it is about it.
Well, it shaped me, in the major aspects of my identity, because I have to move my life from one city to another city. And it's okay, we're in this new city, let's make the best out of it. Finding my community outside of my family, finding my church, work, friends. And right when I think I have it settled down, he'll come home and say, yeah, we're off to another city. It's just like, oh my God. But I have to learn to just trust God and trust in the process. It takes a lot. You have to be happy within yourself. You have to be secure within yourself, because if not, you have identity crisis. It took me a very long time to get to where I am right now, because we moved here in Houston. The last relocation happened in 2019, and I was heavily pregnant with our third child. I gave birth January. The next month we went on lockdown. And I was like, oh, that it did a lot to my mental health. I was always stuck at home with the kids, no friends, wasn't going anywhere, no. And he was out, at work. It took a lot, but I started have to learn I had to rediscover myself again, my purpose. I wanted to have identity outside of motherhood, outside of wifehood. I wanted to be my own person. So that is, I started praying, watching movies, documentaries, reading books, is all leading up to where we are now. It took a very intentional step for me to find myself, and I'm still finding myself, but I'm a lot happier now. Take stock helped me a lot too. Reading the book, like, hey, my life, what's going on? It helped me take stock of my life. So yeah, it's actually a very good book. I'm pretty sure we are one of your number one buyers. No, seriously, everybody gets a book. Everybody gets a book.
Thank you for sharing that. I like that double click. And Benjamin, you're going to give us your double click in terms of how this shaped you. I just wanted to highlight a few points that you talked about there. And the beauty of the journeys that we've walked in life, I usually say, and I say in the book, that it's an asset of relatability. There's somebody that's going to be listening out there. I'm like, okay. I'm probably at that point right now where I'm like, what's going on with me? What's going on with my life? But there's somebody else who's gone through that, who's looking pretty out of all of that. Like, did she just say third? And who's also finding yourself in the course of that journey. And that's why I appreciate you saying that those have shaped you, because it caused you to ask deep questions, probably early than somebody else would do. Because sometimes when life is coasting, normally you feel like, you almost lose the awareness of checking in. But when you're upping and moving and upping and moving, at some point you either have to deal with it intentionally, or it deals with you in a way that you don't like. And I like that you've highlighted those. Thank you for being authentic, and thank you for sharing. So we've seen you in a double click light, right? And so I'm keen, Benjamin, when you talk about the transitions, because you're the one that comes on with a spark in your eye and she's like, what is he about to say right now? Another one. All right, so tell us.
Yeah, so for me, just to piggyback on what she said, right? It's about, over all these transitions, especially highlighting the career ones, sometimes you keep chasing, I think from the book, it's like a hamster wheel. So you're chasing success without even taking stock of what it's doing to you or doing to your family or even your own personal goals, right? And you just keep, okay, this is what I have to do to get to one arbitrarily position you have in your head, Then, and sometimes, I think also when we're studying the book, made me to realize there's some unconscious or unintentional selfishness, right? As a career or you field engineer or something like that. So something like, oh man, I've been not been really taking stock of how the effect for my current inner or external cycle, right? So for me, I think that's it. You help me to sometimes pause. I'm like, okay, where am I going to? Is this really the divine purpose, or is this me being selfish, or is this me keeping up with the Joneses or things like that? I think that's for me, that's where I want to like highlight that okay, is this how, when will this stop? What am I chasing? And if am I chasing it in a selfish way, or am I chasing it for impact to my family, to my spouse, to my global community, right? So yeah.
Thank you both. You've really launched us out like deep. You set a baseline, like, no, we're from here on, we're getting even more serious. This is already very deep. No, but thank you so much. Both of you already mentioned take stock in your opening comments. And so that's my natural segue. That's the next thing I'm going to be asking you about. And so I'm going to ask, how can you describe your encounter with take stock? What drew you to the book? I know both of you's encounters might be slightly different. Somebody probably got it first before the other person. But what was your encounter? What drew you to the book? Because again, there's so many books that you get and you're like, I will get to this one now. But it sounds like you all have read it. So how can you describe your encounter with Take Stock, and what drew you to it, and what struck a chord for you with Take Stock?
So let me start. So for me, I got a signed copy from the author, which is you, from Fumi, which I still cherish, because I attended the Envoy to the Nations conference, which was for me one of the best conferences I've ever attended. I attended and I got the signed copy, and I was like, wow, one of my first self-signed crested books, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna, because that period I've even paused and reading books. So I was like, okay, let me see what this is all about. And for me, that was like I think it's mentioned, it's a God help book. It's a God help book. and I know what Christy is gonna say, so let me jump. I forced the book on her. I was like, man, and really, I came back and I was like, man, I have this book. We're gonna read this book, and everything, and that's basically.
I was kicking and screaming.
So,
Well, yeah, he was really blown away. We were actually supposed to attend it together, but I can't recall what happened. But he came back, he was very excited, and he was like, man, it was the best conference. I wish you was there. I got this book. And I think he started reading the book. He's like, hey, you should read the book. I said, I have books. I already have books that I'm reading. And he's like, no, you have to. But naturally, I'm a person that I do take stock. I'm a very self-aware person. If something goes wrong, I like to go back and analyze it. So I was already doing that, but the book taught me about the more like how to organize my life, take stock, and what the problem is. So how do we remedy it? So I'm learning how to remedy. I'm good at identifying, but I'm not really good at, okay, how do we not get stuck in a rat race? So that's what I got from the book.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, thank you both for sharing, because again, like I said earlier, some of the principles here are, we already do them in some form or the other. One of the key highlights we put on Take Stock in the book is the fact that you need to do it holistically, because often for some people, they take stock of certain aspects. Often we're quick to take stock of maybe something that's going really, really well, or something that's going really, really bad. And then we get blindsided in both instances, in a sense that, for some people, a career is going great. They just focus and they're just going on, and we do the appraisals, and they're not pausing to say, what all else is going on in other dimensions of my life? How is this really success? Or is success at what cost? Is it success at the cost of even the key dimensions of impact that I have out there? And that's one of the things we say, okay, first, be holistic in how you take stock, right? But more importantly, I saw some people tease me and say, for me, this is like 2 books in one. I'm like, yes, I wanted to put everything in there. Like, if we finish taking stock, like, what do you do with it? Because ultimately it's about, what are we going to fix about this? How are we going to rearrange this? And that's why we have a lot of questions and all of that in the book, to make sure that at least as much as possible, we provide some guiding for people to help them go on that journey. And of course, we offer the masterclass, right? to also navigate that journey as well. But I would say that, you already touched on it briefly, but if you want to still double click on it, like the moment of realization, as we think about your purpose and those things, right? For someone like you, Christy, you already navigated so many things, transitions that got you to a point where you're like, Christy, we need to talk. Like, where do we go from here? Like, I'm a wife, I'm a mom. Who's Christy, and where are we going from here? But as you then read it and you clicked on it a bit, I'll be curious as you think about how it's giving you some more clarity. If you could share maybe 1 or 2. Same for you, Ben. I also want you to kind of just, because the beauty of these conversations we have is that everyone brings a unique perspective. For some people, it was chapter 1 for them. For some people, just opening the intro and saying, you know what, have I even paused in recent times? For other people, it's chapter 5. So not as much the chapter, but the real insights for you when you think about clarity around purpose.
Well, it helped me pinpoint what I actually wanted, out of life, out of put aside career, put aside motherhood. Like, what is it? What legacy do I want to leave behind? And it's something that's been in the back of my mind. I've always really wanted to be, a kingdom matchmaker. I like a counselor type of situation. And I've, while reading Take Stock, I said, okay, this you've had this echoing in your mind. How can we make it, happen? How can I make this a reality? So doing the mission statements, all the 100 assignments that you had in the class for us to do, that really helped me focus. Okay, this is the area, this is the niche that I want to transition into. It has helped me. In my church, I joined the singles committee, And now, I mean, we're heading to be part of like the leadership of it in such a short time. And I don't think I would have had the confidence or the boost to even pursue that if I hadn't, you know, took the time to read the book and do the assignments. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me is I think one of the many numerous, light bulb moments or moment of realization for me was when I was like, there's so many people's destiny that are attached to mine. You understand? Because I would say I was a very selfish person. It was me and maybe my nuclear family, right? But it's much more than that. There is so many destinies that is waiting for my own realization. And I cannot wait until, for example, I retire before I start making an impact, right? So you have to start now. So many people can learn from your life journey at this stage, not before you actualize whatever is in your head, right? So that's one was very key. And there was a word that says recognizing the cost of your oil, right? To whom much is given, much is expected. And I finally, just to wrap it up here, I would like to say for me it was just understanding that, I basically, success or failure is going to be determined by who gave me the assignment, which is God. Because we have forgotten and we started living up to so many people's expectation, even our expectation, but not God's expectation. So that's when I realized that this switch was on, right? So like, no, I need to start living to the person that gave me the assignment expectation, and that was it.
That's just awesome. It's awesome because, you just said in passing the whole essence of our life here on earth, right? God had an intention. He has a space that you need to fill in every sphere of life that you are, as a career person, as a leader, as a representative, as a mom, as somebody who has ideas that should help singles that are coming along. But sometimes we get caught up in our own interpretation of what that assignment is. But eventually, pass or fail is not determined by how cozy you feel inside of you or how excited you feel. It's like, what did I commit into your hands? What was your assignment? Why were you there? Why did you have the unique journey that you've walked? Why did you have the perspective that you've walked? Who could you have helped with it? What did that person go on to help the person they're supposed to help because you showed up? It's like a chain reaction, right? I hear you say, Christy, you joined the committee, singles, you're trying to help them on their journey. I show up, I get out of being stuck in my head, come out and talk about the things that I've learned and some of the inspiration that God's given me. You hear it, you add it to the residue of all the other things that you've had in there, but you got the extra push to say, you know what, I've got it, I've got this, and I have to keep moving. But now you're impacting somebody who's going to go impact somebody else because you showed up. Right. That's the beauty of it. Like, it's a continuous chain reaction. It just keeps going. And the destiny that may be most important and critical for it might still be 3 or 4 chains down the line. And so if you don't show up when you show up, and the other person doesn't show up when they're showing up, you're depriving somebody of something that may be critical for their destiny. And that's the beauty of it all. And so I like how between both of your answers, you've highlighted the key thing. One of it is that you've always carried it, right? It's not most of these things. You're not going, we refine our destiny, we refine ourselves, we get improved. As we take on one step to the next step, we get better. But all the ingredients that you need to be the person that you're designed to be is already inside of you. Christy, you already had the thoughts, but you were like kind of sitting on it. And you're kind of like, am I ready? Am I qualified for it just yet? But then you got the push, and then you grab a mirror and you're like, what's this pressing in? It's me. Because that's the beauty of walking the path of purpose. Like, as you start to take one step after the other, there's just this new confidence, like, okay, got this. We got this. What's next? All right. So thank you both for sharing. Christy talked about the tons of assignments. I'm going to skip to the masterclass, and then I'll cycle back to what was going to be my next question. So tell us about the masterclass. By the way, she's going to be talking about the Insights to Impacts masterclass that I spoke about in the introduction. And we currently have another cohort ongoing. Today is week 6. Interestingly, I said to them that what you take out of the class is going to be dependent on what you interact with, like all those resources, until you unwrap everything for me is saying into what does this really mean for me? And that's why we give all those templates and all of those assignments so that you can take that pause to push yourself and catalyze yourself based on your realization for yourself. So tell us about the masterclass. What was the highlight for you individually and as a couple? other than the 100 assignments. It's not 100, it's not 100, but the tons of assignments.
Okay, I could go. I could go first. For me, there were so many amazing tools, right, to use in the masterclass, apart from the networking with other cohort members. And one of them was the well-being assessment and the well-being improvement plan. Because for me, he talked about like the four pillars. So your physical well-being, your intellectual well-being, your emotional well-being, and most importantly, your spiritual well-being. And the ability, I've never sat down to evaluate those four pillars before, right? The ability to just take some time and evaluate it, man, my score was shocking. When I first did it, and it was really shocking. Like, for example, little thing like drinking water, I was neglecting drinking water or exercising consistently, right? So by the time I created a genuine and well-being improvement plan, and I won't say I immediately started doing everything, but the fact I did it and I go back and check it, I'm like, oh man, I wrote I was supposed to do this. And it's like, wow, that was very great. So that was one of the key highlights. Another one was during the class, we did something, I think it was about the strength assessment, where you had to ask people around you to basically give you a review. And I was so shocked about the things people said about me, like things that maybe in my own, maybe humble way, or I just never even thought of. And it was mind opening, right? So a lot of people look at you, they observe you, they have, I don't know, a thought process when it comes to who this person is. And to hear it, I know that, man, you are shortchanging yourself almost all the time. People see you in a very, very amazing light. You're just the one thinking you're small. No, your impact is great, right? I think I will just highlight those two for now, but it was an amazing experience for me. It's like top tier, top tier, and I would recommend it for anyone, that masterclass. Yeah.
I feel the same way too. Like doing those assignments together and going back and looking back, like we hold each other accountable now and ourselves. Like, hey, I was supposed to be reading 4 books. No, you said 3. Wait, it was actually 5. So going back, I love it because now I'm not necessarily a person that write things down. It's something that I'm improving now because I have it in my head, but you forget, but now it's good to go back and say, okay, this is what I said I'm going to do. You hold yourself accountable to doing it.
Thank you. I'm super glad we had this couples edition, just kind of hearing you kind of knock off one another's perspectives and insights shows to me that there's really power in being aware as a couple, where how you are growing individually, where the gaps are, the things that are in your identity, the things you need to fill up. But at the same time, how you all need to work together, hold yourself accountable because you understand the language of it. One of the hardest things that can happen to you is like, oh, you're very well set on this journey. And then you go talk to somebody and the next day they're like, what is all this? There's a part of you that even when you're somebody who pushes forward regardless, it would just be great to have some encouragement for somebody who understands it, right? And understand that this is important, because the irony of it is, I say that some of our biggest life goals, nobody is holding us accountable other than ourselves. There are people who said, you know what, I want to be able to change the lives of X number of people. And then it's out there. And then you wake up and you're 60 one day and you're 50 and you're like, where did all the time go? Because you never had any sense of timeline or deadlines on like the tax annual tax timelines or the other appraisal timelines. This other one is just ticking silently in the back and it's moving forward. And so all of a sudden you realize, where did all the time go? Where did all the opportunities to build myself up to this time? Because some of them you won't do it immediately, but you would have started laying the foundation of who that person is going to become, sometimes without even knowing it. Recently I was trying to put together some brand reintroduction, and there was just so many artifacts out there that we had without consciously trying to build it, because we're doing the masterclass, we did the conference, and each one of them was just one new step after the other, but it's getting closer to the purpose destination that I know that God is leading me on. And so it's so great to see you both say, you're holding yourselves accountable. Some days you're not going to be that person, but the ability to be able to recover is catalyzed by the fact that there's somebody very near to you in your corner saying, remember, it was 3. Okay, we know you're busy right now. When do we get back to it? So thank you both for sharing. And I think it's just a natural segue to, and one more thing I want to highlight is what you said, Benjamin, about the 2 things that were top highlights for you, the well-being assessment, and then the strengths assessment that, you sent out to other people. It's like an in and an out type part. The in being like, okay, what, we need to take care of this vessel that is holding all these treasures. Where are we on that journey? How are we being mindful across all the pillars? Because sometimes some people are physical health junkies, they're like doing everything, but mentally they're not, because they have all these backpacks and things like that. And so being able to look at that assessment is like, okay, how are we whole to then carry on this assignment? But the part that's always very exciting for a lot of people, and it was for me, is this whole strengths assessment. It tells you that you're giving off light every day. You're giving off emissions. But when you do that, you're grabbing a mirror. When you talk to people, you grab a mirror and like, this thing I just did effortlessly. I wasn't even thinking about it. Is bringing so much impact to somebody. So that then tells you, oh, I need to be more intentional about this thing, if this is how this is rubbing off on other people. So thank you for sharing that and reinforcing that. All right, so as we kind of think about where we are with time, this is very interesting conversation, and we're getting there gradually. To now go on to that individual growth, and that's what you already said, right? Individual versus couple growth, right? As you each began taking stock individually, at what point do you see how do you see how your personal growth is impacting your growth as a couple?
Next thing you want to go? Okay, I'm the talker. For me, it's something that is I wouldn't even say it's additive. I think I would say it's exponential, geometric in nature, right? Because as we grow individually, it fuels a collective growth, right? And that's how it should be as a couple. Both parties should be growing in their own divine purpose. Then also it will help feed collectively, right? If both people are strong, it's like one can chase 100, two can chase 1,000, or whatever the mathematics is. But it's not even going to be addictive. It's going to be geometric. So I think, giving, first of all, each other space to grow, is something that was key. And also being able to stay connected with the shared vision, or also especially just communicate about it, right? To say, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm thinking, this is what you're doing, this is what I'm thinking. Like after we finish the book and everything, I know that first few weeks or first few months, any small conversation, take stock will just be in it. It's like it was just, it was crazy. But now, and sincerely now, even though we don't say the take stock, you can see that we're now doing it on a subconscious level, right? So like I said, intentional growth was basically we first of all understanding who we're becoming individually, and ensuring that we were both in those individual silos, chasing God's assignment for our lives. And immediately you started seeing it basically reflected on our collective long-term family and couple purpose, right? So yeah.
No, thank you for sharing. Christy, do you want to add anything to that?
He's pretty much said it all, but yeah, he's not exaggerating. Those first few weeks after the class, everything was take stock, and I was like, if you say take stock one more time, you owe me $1. You owe me $1.
No.
But yeah, it was a good experience, and it months after the class is over, we are still taking stock of everything. So yeah, he said a lot. He said it all.
And I like what he said, like kind of giving each other space to grow is helping you, exponentially as a couple. They say that the whole is bigger than the sum of its parts, especially when you're working synchronized, right? You just see that it's not a 1+1, it's like an exponential thing, because now you all there's just that fusion energy that just comes together when you all come together, and while carrying out your individual God's assignment, you're loving who you're becoming, and you're bringing your best self to the couple relationship, right? And so in my mind, I'm just thinking about balance. Like, so how do you balance, continuing to grow individually and still growing together?
We have many discussions. We're always discussing different topics, different scenarios. We have debates somewhat, not necessarily debates, but conversations about everything. I can hear something and I was like, hey, what's your take on this? How can we make this better? It's given it we he talks a lot. But now it's making me more, more how to I communicate better, where
Yeah, and I think like communicate better, intentional communication,
yeah,
right?
that's the word,
yeah,
intentional,
and the same thing, understanding is not a competition, right? It's basically complementing each other, and the balance you were saying, the balance happens. Let me use the word automatically, especially because both people now are chasing their God-given purpose. If it was something you were being selfish about, chasing and something else, you find out you now have to put more energy into making there be a balance between the two human beings that is in the union, right? But because we were now having a lens of saying what is going to give God more glory, what's going to bring more impact to God's kingdom, then automatically you find yourself, you guys are always in the same direction, in the same way, and that for me, that was so not even have to do something extraordinary to balance it out. It just automatically, because two people and God is in the center, it just basically everything balances out on its own. So yeah.
We have a lot of roundtable conversations about almost anything now. Even last night, we were in the dining table discussing, random things, like anything, everything now is like a conversation. So it's really helped our communication, tremendously.
Awesome. So that's so beautiful to hear you. When you say talking about God, like God given, what came to mind was the fact that things fall apart when the center does not hold. And then you talked about it and said God is at the center of it. The beauty of God is that He's not an author of confusion. He's put things in us, but each one of us has a place that we occupy in the picture to the world. And especially when it finds two individuals as a couple who are being intentional, the intentionality of your union is also a data point for other people out there. And so He kind of makes it work. And so the fact that God is at the center and you're chasing the vision of God for your life, utilizing the uniqueness that God has put inside of you, still has God at the center of it. And so He creates that picture, and I like the fact that He talked about, intentional communication, because often I believe that one of the biggest opportunity areas for couples or any people who are in any kind of relationship is being able to talk through things, because perspectives matter. Like sometimes, you're thinking something, and then when person actually says what they're saying, like, oh, I wasn't even thinking that way. I just assumed this, that, and that. And so the fact that being intentional makes you talk more about things just makes it a lot easier, right? To be able to say, what are we trading off? Where are the opportunities? Where are we aligned? Because you'll not always be on the exact same page, but you understand where you're coming from, and you're able to drive to a trade-off, recognizing again that you are all at the center of God's visions for your respective, lives and as a couple. So in my mind, that then makes me ask the question of, if I'm a couple, if there's a couple out there today, they haven't quite read the book, right? And they're not in masterclass. So let's just think about the principle, like what are practical ways in which they can begin taking stock together? We want them to buy the book, of course, but it's not the book. Let's talk about practical ways.
Like I think she highlighted it earlier. It starts with men, because a lot of issues come from not having effective communication, right? So the one practical way of taking stuff together is the ability to be open, to be transparent, and have those intentional conversations regularly. Then I would say the well-being thing. I've seen sometimes, she may want to go for a walk, and me, I'm like, man, I just want to chill. But sometimes we're like, okay, let's go for a couple's walk, right? And then by even walking, you're building synergy together, you're exercising together, and we come back, and there's no day we do that couple walk where both of us don't feel in some kind of closeness and everything. Right? So things like that, those are practical ways. One will be definitely sharing the visions and values, right? Making sure you guys align. And like I said, if you put the bigger purpose in the center, then you can find common grounds very easily. And like she said, not just talking about it, but acting on what you discover after you reflect on it. So those are practical ways. One key one I will not, because it's a couple discussion, I will not want to miss is whenever you're doing your I guess resource taking stock, it's something you have to do. Time, like she always mentioned to me, man, there's have to be couples time. So you have to make sure you create time. There have to be time for spouses, time for the family. Let me repeat, time for spouses again. Then also relationships, high relationships. Like she encourages me, to make sure I make quality friends, go out, spend time with my friends, and I do the same with her. So encourage your spouses to spend time, have healthy relationship on their own. Then you can have yours collectively too. And like I said, finally, finances. You cannot escape the discussion on finances, because having a purpose-driven, kingdom-driven mindset, you need to make sure you're a proper steward of finances. And couples have to have those difficult discussions. And one thing is taking stock of your finances, not because of you want to go buy that private jet or something, but because you want to ensure that when God comes and asks you, what about the finances I gave you? You can be able to give others, right? We have been given to give others. So I think those are the practical takeaways that couples could start, at least, even, it takes a drop to get an ocean, right? Start and just start building on each and every of those points.
Thank you for sharing those. Thank you for sharing that. And I like how you highlighted the chapter 5 of the book on taking stock of your resources. We in the book we talk about the people, resources, your time, time/energy, talk about credibility and your financial resources. In terms of what you own, what you owe, and what you have access to, being able to do that as a couple, is important. And I like what you talked about in terms of relationships, grow quality relationships individually and together. Very, very great perspective. Making time for the spouse, for the family, and then repeated the spouse, meaning that spouse is different from family. Like there is spouse time and then there's family time. So thank you for calling. Like she's like, can I like that 15 more times? All right.
Yes, yeah.
No, I like the unspoken language between your, like sometimes I say, do you want to go first? And then I see that, and they're like, okay, no, I get it. And then, and then you start to speak. And so that it's really good. And like you all said, we're on a journey, right? Even when I teach the class, I always say that, I'm not coming from a place of I've got it all figured out. But these principles are so consistently true that if we continue to apply them, we're able to really get ourselves in a place that first we'll be proud of who we are becoming. Because a lot of times we're too focused on the destination that we're not looking at the change, the transformation, all that's happening for us. And so to add to your comment about, couples who are trying to take stock together, I'll say, first do that well-being light bulb. Because sometimes if you don't know that you have a challenge, you don't even make the step to fix it.
Exactly.
So just sit with yourself and say, okay, where are we? What's been going on? How did we get here? And all of that, it's very, very important, because to your point, it's not just beneficial for the individual, it's exponential. So you just want to be in. It's like an investment that makes sense, right? If both of you are on the same page with that. No, this is beautiful. I don't know that you mentioned how long you've been married so far. How long?
This year will make it
10 years.
10 years.
Okay. Benjamin's like, let me not say the wrong number. Sometimes men
it's actually opposite.
It's actually the opposite.
Okay. All right. Okay. This one.
I know the date to like the time. So.
All right. So in that one, I think me and Christie are the same thing. So when people are inviting me to stuff or telling me about things, I have to say the date out loud. And then my husband says, is that not the date you have? Whereas I'm very intentional about so many things. But when it comes to dates, for whatever reason, I'm the one who hardly, if possible, I might forget my own birthday when I'm planning for something, that's me.
That's where, yes. Like I'm not, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist.
Now, this is so beautiful to learn because 10 years is a journey. That is a journey. And you all have grown through that, you've matured through that, and now you're helping others along their journey. And that's what impact is about, because there are things that you've learned. Impact sometimes is like, there are parts I've worked, there were realizations I did, there were things that worked well. Somebody else should benefit from this. Or there were lessons I learned. Oh, there were things I had to struggle to. I'm like, nobody else should go through that again if you know XYZ. And it's about making life better for somebody else. And the more we think about it, we start to realize that it's not an either or. You can still be having a great time. You can still be growing in your career. You can still be doing all of those things. But now you have that intentional lens of what energy am I giving off? What impact am I giving off? How am I making life better for somebody else? And so I'm super excited to hear that, Christy, you're already looking, to help the singles and all of that. And you're becoming a cloud of witness for others to say, you know what, in a world where there's so much going on, where things are scattered, people are breaking up, or, couples are cat and mouse, being able to have a principle-based approach to living, has its benefits for you. And you're able to impact those who haven't even started the journey to be more intentional as they start their journey, right? And so really excited to hear that. Thank you for sharing. And so as we start to wrap up, I would say, what would you say to couples who are navigating growth, uncertainty, or transitions? To be very transparent, this particular question came from my team. I'm not sure why they had transition there, because it turns out transition is the theme for you both. So, and this was a question I had before now. So interesting. What advice would you give? And I know you've talked through it, between both of you sharing your experiences and transitions, but transitions tend to be very tough on couples. Like, of couples that, they relocated from here, and as soon as they got to another place, everything just scattered, because it usually tests whatever you already have going, right? Because when things shift, it's just that time where you're like, if you're not careful, irritability goes on because you're dealing with your own uncertainties, and this person is like, you don't understand, they're not talking to one another, and then the gulf gets wider. So what would you say to couples who are navigating that?
We have to be intentional about everything. You never stop growing. You never stop listening. You don't have it figured out. We don't have it figured out. We're still learning every day, every day. We're friends outside of being a husband and wife. He's my best friend. We discuss everything together, the good and the bad, and being intentional. If I'm still learning how to communicate, because my first defense when I'm upset is to shut down. And it's not fair to him, because I can shut down. I'm not bragging. It's not a good thing to brag, but it's something I'm working on. And if something he said offended me, it might not even be what he said. It is what I heard. What he said was different from what I heard. I didn't hear it. So that's a lot. So I have to be very intentional. Now, is this really what it is? Let's discuss this issue. We're always reflecting. We're always analyzing. Okay, what went wrong? And I listen when he talks. For some reason, I know he appears to be very serious right now, but he's a jokester. So half of the stuff he says, I don't take seriously, because I don't know when he's joking. I don't know when he's serious. So that's something I have to learn. Okay, he said it, take it seriously. That's what you never stop. You never stop growing. You keep growing. And we have to be intentional about the couple's time. I know he highlighted that before. We set time where, okay, 9 p.m. it's us. It's not kids. There's no phones. It's
no work.
No work. No reading Bible. Because I'm not saying don't read the Bible, but it's that 9 p.m. time is the cutoff. But do we keep it? No, we don't. But are we trying our best to keep it? Yes. Some days we fall short. Some days we do great. We're constantly learning.
Yeah, and also to add to that, I always say for couples navigating that, growth is uncomfortable, and that's just the truth. If there was a magic wand, we would have used it, but it's necessary. And I think for couples, the main issue always comes from comparison. And I think people should beware of comparison is the thief of joy. I think from the book I learned different buildings, different foundations, different structures. Don't compare with your in-laws or your cousins or your siblings marriage or their relationship or your neighbors or your colleagues. No, just do you and be the best version of you based on what foundation God has given to you or what utensils, right? Cook the best meal. And I always tell people, yes, as an advice, time is always the missing link needed from your efforts to your results, right? Some people had time, that's why you're seeing their results now. Sometimes you've already sowed the seed, you just have to wait, and in that your waiting season, make sure you keep growing, make sure you're still living life, so that when you don't actualize the result, that you be like, but I waited so long and I did nothing, so I just basically became a cake, right? So no, why waiting? The result is going to come. The God who is our sustainer has promised it. So I think that's it. That's another advice I would like to add to what she said. Yeah.
No, thank you both. Just for, I think one of the things she's talked about is you don't have to have it all figured out. I think sometimes when we go through this, when we feel like we're unsure, anything the other person says makes you a bit more extra because you're not giving yourself permission to just be vulnerable and say, I ain't got this. It's just to be fully transparent. I'm also picking things from you all because everybody brings their perspective to the table. Time is, I say to people, I live a 30 hour day in 24 hours. And I'm really trusting God, to get to that space where there's a bit more time, right? But the fact that sometimes you don't have to have it 100% figured out. Just be able to be open and candid. And to your point, Benjamin, recognize your time, recognize your season, recognize the point where you've already put in the best that you can as a couple. Just want to trust God, grow in the meantime. And when it's time, when the process, the fullness of the things that are happening are done, even you would be like, what? How did we get here? Sometimes the thing that people stress and beat themselves over, if only they knew that, okay, God was going to bring it on day 15 or day 30, they'd have continued living their life, but you're like stressing every day. Is today the day? And then you create unnecessary pressure for yourself. So thank you both. This has been really, really, like I said to you viewers, I was going to be hearing this firsthand, and this has really been powerful. I realized why God wanted me to have this conversation with this couple, because you all are bringing very unique perspective. When you said 10 years, you all look like you just got married like a year ago. So, so that's the beauty of intentional living. We will go through our highs and lows, but like you said, you might set a goal, you might not hit it, but just recognizing that this is something that we really want to do, recognizing why it's important, and helps you tell yourself, yeah, we need to keep our eye on the ball, even if it looks like right now we might not be meeting our goals. So thank you so much. As kind of like wrapping, as we kind of think about wrapping it, we talked about this purpose and things like that. Are there any things you can say to people around, if I'm just feeling unstuck, I'm stuck? So purpose seems one of the most kind of overused word around, intentional Christian living. And sometimes people now make it feel like, am I there? How do I find it? If there's any tip at all, you can share for anyone who's there feeling like, I'm just stuck, I don't even know, where am I going from here in terms of purpose and life and fulfillment? What would you say to them? And then after that, we'll kind of take the wrap-ups.
Always be a student.
Always be a student. Okay, awesome.
That's a good one.
And you never stop learning. You don't have it figured out. Even if you go interview a couple that has been together for 60 years, 70 years, they always say, we're still learning each other. We're still discovering. So always be a student. That's what I can say.
Man, that's basically summarizes it. And for someone feeling stuck or saying, "Oh, I haven't found my purpose," I always tell people, 70% of the purpose you're looking for is already known to you, which is the divine purpose. It's the general one that God has given, has laid it out in His good book for us to do. Then, whenever you start chasing either individually as a couple, that 70% general divine purpose, you will discover the 30%, which is your own individual highlighted purpose, right? So it's It's in the doing of the general you get to the specific. And I think I just tell most people like, oh, I don't know what my purpose in life is. No, no, no. Start being good to your neighbor. Start doing the good things. Start being good to the poor. When you start doing that, by serving each other, serving the needy, you find your purpose. It will come to you. But you can't wait and say, okay, until I find out, okay, I need to go to Washington, D.C. No, 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 no. You start from wherever you are right now. Then everything, the author and finisher, the one that basically is the God of our journey, he's going to basically expose that 30% to you. Yeah.
No, thanks for sharing that, because really he's the God of the journey. If you're going to Washington, maybe yours is a road trip. Maybe somebody else is getting in a plane. So maybe you have a detour on the way there to somebody who's waiting, and you're going to encounter at the bus station if you do road by bus. But you know that you start one step at a time, one day at a time. And like I always say, God is not an author of confusion. What he needs you to do, a lot of that's already inside of you, right? So we're going to be nice to our neighbors, but niceness for some people is like, oh, I like to just give them food. I like to do stuff. Niceness for some people is like, good morning. How are you today? You're able to extract the best things out of them every time they talk. It's not random. Part of that is tied to where God is leading you. I say to people that, we called it out after writing the book, that 3 P's of purpose: your passion, the things that you tend to be like, why can't we just do this? Even in your quiet way, your patterns of intervention, the things that you tend to attract in people, you're the one that they come to ask when things are kind of very hard, because you have this soft-spoken way of just solving issues. Your perspectives, the paths that you've walked, the fact that you walk through somewhere like nobody's caring for teenagers here, so nobody's caring for women. There's something there, because you walked certain parts, so you've had certain pains, you've seen certain things, and so as you think of making the world better for somebody else, you see that you bring a certain lens to it, and it starts. So to your point, start doing it first, and then you see what you're bringing to the table as you move forward, and you see what excites you. So thank you so very, 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 very much, people. This has been a very, very wonderful session. But just before I let you go, what does impact look like for you as you think about next steps? Going forward, we talked about the singles, we talked about all that. You could just share with us a part of it. We don't share with us everything, just a part.
We've had this discussion, and I think as a family, as a couple, it's basically about getting divine approval, right? Fulfillment and meaningful impact. For example, if you take a snapshot 10 years from now, to be able to look back and say, I did something, or I impacted somebody's life, made it the better, or made their journey easier. For example, even if it's mentoring somebody or advising somebody, it's just like the mistakes I made them not make it, or I fast tracked their success. For me, that's it, inclusive of winning souls, making sure, things like that. Like I said, it always boils down to having that divine approval. The person that gave the assignment is the person to give the approval, and seeking that, seeking first, right? So for me, that's what impact looks like, when you're like, oh wow, like having so many billions in my account. It's like, okay, I have touched so many lives, right? I've made sure, if I was to go back 10 years ago, and somebody did it for me, I would have appreciated it. So do that now. So do that. So basically paying things forward, using the resources I've had to make sure multiply.
You want to add anything, Chrissy?
He said it all, but living out God purpose, life, pleasing God. One thing I've learned so far with us is, how is our life? What is this thing that we're doing? How is it pleasing to God? How are we helping our God given audience?
Yeah.
It's just, we have to live a life that mirrors God. Like, if you see us, you should be able to know in an instant that we're a godly couple. You don't have to guess like, are they Christians or are they not? No, I want you to, when you see us, we should radiate lights that we are God purpose driven, people.
By their fruits you
The
will
fruit
know them. And
yeah.
you're intentional about those fruits of impact, of making a difference, of showing to people the reflection of God, even as a couple. bringing all your best selves, your unique selves to this union that's exponentially becoming a reference point for those in your sphere and others who are coming on a journey alongside with you. No, thank you very, very, very much. And to your point, Jermaine, it's not about the billions in your account, but the beauty about the God of that we pay attention to is that if he's giving you $1 billion assignment, often he tests the heart.
Yes.
He tests the heart first. And so what the widow of Zarephath had what was going to be her last meal, and that meal was a meal of sustenance for herself, her son, and the prophet for many, 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 many more weeks and months to come. And so in life, sometimes we're hung up on where we're going, and it's saying show up today and we'll get there together. And so if you're out there trying to figure out purpose and you're still there, you're kind of like, when you do the 70% plan of just being impactful to others, paying it forward, changing lives, and then he sees a worthy mirror in you of his attributes to the world, then he backs you up in such a way that you'll be undeniable to all, that the Almighty rules in the affairs of men. It's been a delight talking to you both. I've so enjoyed listening to you, taking nuggets from you both. But if there are people who would like to follow you or connect with you on your journey, is there any way they can find you, anything you want to share with them?
Yeah, we definitely LinkedIn, but we have an Instagram page called Overcomers Creed. So Overcomers Creed. So please follow us, and I hopefully definitely is gonna bless you. So Overcomers Creed on Instagram. Thank you.
We will be putting it in the Instagram. We'll be putting it in the Instagram announcement. It's on Instagram, right? Overcomers Creed, right? Yeah. So we'll add that to this. Any last words?
I think from us is, like I say, take stock, ensure that you grow intentionally. Like each day you're growing or you're desiring, because it starts with a passion. You're desiring to grow, and avoid the hamster wheel, avoid the rat race. Make sure you're living a purpose-driven life, making impact, kingdom impact here on earth.
Awesome. Thank you so much. People, we've been talking about the book, Take Stock of Who You Have Become on the Journey to Becoming. If you're wondering how to get yours, it's available on Amazon and also available on my website. Details to get it in other places like Nigeria, it's available on my website, www.fumilolaasa.com. Believe me, you want to have this book in your hand. Like my real copy has underlines. There are times I open it up again and it's speaking to me afresh. One of my favorite topics in the book is journey. So many of us are underselling the impact that we carry because we have not recognized the dots, the nuggets, the perspectives that in the journey that we have walked to this point. And the more we go back in tune with ourselves, it's intentional that the image on this book is somebody looking at another person in the mirror. And that there's actually a small insert that has somebody smiling. That's where you want to go to. But the question is, who have you become in that journey? And until you recognize who you've become, you may never enter into who you should become because you have not recognized who you have become on that journey. We have things we need to shape. We have things we need to adjust. We have things we need to intentionally tune and improve to even be better, to be able to deliver on the assignment that we've been designed for. Like Benjamin has said, like Christie has said, it's about your God purpose. You're here for a purpose. You're not here by accident. You're here by design. You have a unique spot on God's puzzle piece to the world. Every of the step is the shaping and the process. But the quicker you sit in and lean in and take stock and be intentional, the quicker you're on your path to get there. What you don't want to do is to be too caught up looking at somebody else's spot, that by the time you arrive at your spot, you've kept your target audience waiting for too long, that God has replaced you. We don't want to be replaced. I hope that this has served as a reminder of you individually, but also if you're as a couple, making sure that both of you are being intentional for your God-given purpose individually and as a couple. It's been a delight having this conversation yet again. I hope it's been wonderful. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, Christy. God bless you plenty. To our audience, see you in another session. Let's talk, take stock. Thank you.
Thank you.